Good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Todd Mina, the CV Tech New Visions Medical South teacher. It's my pleasure to announce the graduates of the New Visions Medical South program. Alena Bennett. Alena is a routinely pleasant and agreeable person. She never seems to get too far off kilter. One time when her classmate Cassidy was sawing a cast off her arm, I could see that she was getting a bit anxious and worried, but she just smiled, put her hand over her mouth, and rolled with it. But this pleasant disposition doesn't keep Alena from leading. I had the good fortune of watching Alena lead her cheerleading squad at a Moriah Central basketball game, and her squad ended up winning the regional championship. Alena's favorite thing about CV Tech was being academically challenged, which she says helped her decide on her goal of becoming a nurse practitioner. She starts working towards that goal at SUNY Plattsburgh this fall. Taylor Brassard. Taylor's pretty quiet. I'm not likely to hear from her if I don't specifically ask her a question, but there's a good-natured kid with a great sense of humor in there. Taylor was a swim team captain at Moriah Central School, and when I asked her what her greatest high school accomplishment was, she said it was beating Ausable Valley in a swim meet, which broke Moriah's 18-year losing streak. I also got a chance to see Taylor play basketball against Saranac last winter, and even though she's not a big talker in class, she took the time to find me in the stands and give me a big smile and wave. Taylor's good nature will benefit her patients when she reaches her goal of becoming a nurse. She will attend SUNY Canton. Madeline Cochran. Maddie is very intellectually curious. She sat in the front row of the class, and I would often hear her utter comments like, or oh yeah, whenever she learned something new. This thirst for knowledge resulted in Maddie being the valedictorian of Moriah Central School. I had hoped to take advantage of Maddie's intellectual curiosity at the Skills USA Medical Terminology Competition, and so I gave her a copy of my comprehensive medical terminology exam to study from. This is how I found out that Maddie is also environmentally conscious, because when I asked her to return it at the end of the year, she told me she had recycled it. Maddie's favorite thing about CV Tech was learning about topics that are important to her future career, which is to become a nurse practitioner and or a nurse midwife. She will attend DeSales University. Mike Damaris. Coming up with something specific about Mike was tough because he takes part in a lot of different activities, all at a high level. Academics, music, sports, weightlifting after school. So I had to ask myself, when I think of Mike, what word comes to mind? And that word is food. The first week of school, Mike was carrying around a family-sized picnic cooler, so I assumed he had some type of school project going on. But he had it every day, and I soon found out this was his daily food rations to fuel his routine activities. We had actually planned a class hike, and even though we had to set up transportation and timing, my biggest concern was if we would be able to carry enough calories to keep Mike from becoming hypoglycemic. By the way, thank you, Mrs. Damaris, for sending in all those awesome baked treats. In the end, Mike is reliable and ambitious. And these traits take him to Hartwick College, where he will study to become an anesthesiologist, and will also be playing college football as a Hartwick Hawk. Alethea Goralczyk. Alethea is very observant. She always seems to be thinking deeply, and the good questions she asked in class are evidence of that. But possibly more so, she's creative. We did an anatomy and physiology art project where students can draw, use clay, construction paper, whatever they choose. And when I saw Alethea's drawing, it was so accurate as to be obvious as to what body part was depicted. But it was also abstract and beautiful at the same time. This was an eye-opener for a nerdy anatomy teacher. It's no surprise to me that Alethea earned an Advanced Regents Diploma in Art from Moriah Central School. Alethea's favorite thing about CV Tech was being able to see things she is interested in real life, and in that she's referring to the hospital medical clinics. That experience will go a long way in Alethea's path to become a pediatrician. She will attend Siena College. Max Heron. Max is involved in a number of leadership activities. At Moriah Central School, he was the president of both his class and the student council. This is consistent with his organized and businesslike approach to school. Very scholarly and focused. He notices the details. As a matter of fact, there were a few times this year where Max noticed some inconsistencies between information provided and test answer options, resulting in me throwing out a few exam questions. I appreciate Max's confidence to stick by his findings and call me out in that way. What Max liked most about CV Tech was the hands-on labs, especially learning how to place stitches in pigs' feet. Max plans to use his surgical skills as a cardiologist and begins his path at the University of Arizona. Maya Pertak. Maya. To summarize Maya, all I can say is it's just awesome having her around. I can't think of a day that Maya's smile and positive attitude didn't brighten our classroom. At Maya's home school of Crown Point Central, she also brightened the sports arena, where she was both school soccer MVP and cheerleading best flyer. During our pandemic video class meetings, Maya's patience with and love for children was evident, as she was often babysitting at the same time she was attending our meetings, which in and of itself is a tribute to her responsibility. Maya will be taking her smile and love of children to pediatric nursing. She starts at North Country Community College. Cassidy Rushby. Cassidy has the very positive trait of letting her opinions be known. Our primary classroom is located at Boquet Valley Central because it's nearest the hospital. Last fall, we were spontaneously invited to have our pictures taken on Boquet's Picture Day. Cassidy happened to have cornrow braids in that day and was not hesitant to tell me that she would like to be advised ahead of time in the future if pictures are going to be taken. In truth, that's my favorite picture of our class. While learning about sprains and fractures, we do a splinting lab in competition. I show the students how to apply one in detail once, and then they place them on each other for the competition. Cassidy is our champion. And Cassidy's ability to learn quickly will help her towards her goal of becoming a nurse practitioner. But she plans to have some adventures along the way. Now that she's completed her education at Moriah Central, she will start at Castleton University getting her nursing degree. Then she plans to see different parts of the country and possibly the world as a traveling nurse before finishing her education as a nurse practitioner. Malaika Salim. Besides being Moriah Central School salutatorian, Malaika is also the New Visions Medical South Student of the Year, having achieved the highest overall grade point average. Malaika achieved this through meticulous attention to detail in all 5 of the classes that comprise New Visions. She and I discussed that she had to adjust to my teaching and testing style that caused her some initial grief. But instead of making excuses, she adapted and maintained strong effort. It was that flexibility and persistence that allowed her to become Student of the Year in a competitive class where the top 4 students finished with GPAs separated by less than 1%. Malaika's favorite thing about CV Tech was the hospital rotations, and it makes sense as she will be at SUNY Plattsburgh this fall, starting on her path towards becoming a physician's assistant. Alyssa Sumo. Alyssa has great composure. On the very first day of school, in this class of high-achieving students from multiple schools, there was a busing mix-up that resulted in me having to go find Alyssa and walk her back to the classroom that was already filled with the other students. I think that would have been stressful for anyone, but Alyssa met me with eye contact and a smile and walked into the classroom like she had already done it 1,000 times. I was very impressed with that. As the year went by, however, I became most impressed with Alyssa's balance. She excels in so many parts of her life. She is not only the valedictorian of her Keene Central School class, she is also the Division III soccer MVP and a member of the first team all-conference basketball team. She topped this off by teaching the class in one of her speeches about the power of meditation in maintaining focus. Because Alyssa enjoys both academics and athletics, she plans to become a doctor of physical therapy and begins her path at North Country Community College. Braden Swan. Braden had no problem with the difficult academic load of New Visions this year. But to talk about Braden and not discuss sports would be ignoring who Braden really is. Braden carries his athletic ability with confidence but not arrogance. He never even brought up sports in class. Braden was the only football player in Section 7 to be first team all-conference offense and defense. And he was first team all-state basketball. I know this from reading the newspaper because Braden didn't tell me these things. Confidence is a strong characteristic of leadership. And interestingly, Braden states that his greatest Moriah Central School accomplishment was providing leadership to younger students. Braden plans to become a physical therapist athletic trainer and starts his path at Gyra Prep Academy. Ross Thomas. When I think of Ross, the words courteous and considerate come to mind. Our classroom moves around between Boquet Valley Central School, the hospital, and the Mineville campus. So we often have to set up models and equipment when we move to a new location. Ross's transportation resulted in him often arriving prior to the other students. And when this happened, he would routinely ask if there was any way he could help, which he then did and was greatly appreciated. Ross is another of our academic athletes. He states that his greatest accomplishment at Crown Point Central School was being named Basketball Defensive Player of the Year twice, even though he was also the class salutatorian. Ross plans to become an emergency physician and begins his training at North Country Community College. Logan Van Buren. Logan is not a pack animal. He clearly has his own path and is not distracted by the actions of others. At Moriah Central School, Logan received many track MVP awards while also being on the honor roll, in part because his independence is balanced by being respectful of his classmates and location. That being said, when I find something about my students in the paper, I typically bring it in for them. And I can't help but recall one time when I brought in the sports section because Logan was on the front page leading a race. I handed it to him just prior to beginning class, which was my bad. And shortly thereafter, during class, I found him intensely reading the article. I jokingly asked if the class was disrupting his reading or if he would like a cup of coffee. But he already had a cup of coffee. He just picked it up and smiled at me and started paying attention. That's Logan. Logan plans to become a physician's assistant, and he starts his studies at Clinton Community College. Lily Williams. Lily is a very well-read student, and fortunately for our class has an above-average interest in contributing to class discussions. Her interest in giving speeches in front of the class, however, is less pronounced, though she did up her game over the course of the year. Despite speech not being Lily's favorite New Visions component, her speeches revealed that she is both well-read and a deep thinker. In one of them, she discusses a book about Aristotle's youth and how he came to terms with teen challenges. This is consistent with her noting that her greatest accomplishment while at Moriah Central School was figuring out who she was as a person. At CV Tech, Lily liked best learning from actual medical professionals, both in class and in hospital clinics. She takes this knowledge to Northern Virginia Community College as she begins her path toward becoming a neurosurgeon. This year's class has been the most varied I've ever had. Along with having academically strong students, this class had numerous other interests and abilities that resulted in great classroom discussions and a fun atmosphere. Thank you for making my job so enjoyable. Congratulations on what you've achieved, and good luck as you move forward in your lives.